Also on the line is Tony Kelly. Tony is an ex-footballer. Tony played for St Albans City, amongst other clubs. He overcame his gambling addiction and is now the CEO and founder of the Red Card Gambling Support Project. Tony, good morning.
Morning, Justin.
Good morning, sir. Really appreciate you coming on. Tony, can you just tell us a little bit more about your story, if you don't mind, please?
Yeah, not a problem at all. I probably started gambling around 18, playing for Dulwich Hamlet Football Club. That was my dream, obviously, was to be a professional footballer. As you mentioned, I was fortunate enough to get a move from St Albans City to Stoke City. And then basically during my 9 years as a professional footballer with 7 different clubs, I spiraled into gambling addiction. So, the impact was absolutely huge. And we're not just talking about the financial impact, but all the other issues that come with gambling addiction. So with a 20-year relationship broke down. I went bankrupt in 2010 with a £192,000 bankruptcy file, which included 30 creditors. So as a gambling addict, you will exhaust all avenues of borrowing. And then obviously it affected my mental health and my career progression. So I finished with professional football by the age of 30, which is probably about 6-7 years too early. Wow. So right across the board, the different various types of impact had a deep impact on my life.
Gosh, Tony, how much money do you think you lost gambling?
Well, estimated that I lost £500,000 during that 9-year period. I also had 2 houses repossessed. So, you can imagine, I'm fortunate, blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it, to be able to come out the other side, to be able to recover and to be able to educate and help people today, which is the reason why I set up Red Card Gambling Sport Project in 2015.
Gosh, £500,000. What would you say during that period? I'm sorry to ask you this question, but during that period, you're very open about this, which is inspiring to listen to. What would you say was your lowest point during that period?
Lowest point, I'd probably say, going towards the bankruptcy, because when I accumulated all that debt, with that come, my obviously loss of form and my career was going downhill. And I think, it was a weight off my shoulder, getting the £192,000 bankruptcy file, and getting those debts out, cleared. But obviously with that comes long-term consequences in terms of your credit file and then, trying to get a mortgage or trying to get anything on credit you couldn't for 6 years. So I think I felt very low then. But it was a matter of I had good network support, I had good family support, I had counselling. So, there was things that I had to commit to make sure that, I can come on a recovery journey. And I suppose I'm testimony to people out there that are listening that, that's fine. They get to a point where there is absolutely no hope. Unfortunately, gambling-related suicide is on the rise. But I was, as I said, unfortunate to be here today and to be able to do what I'm doing.
So you started up the Red Card Gambling Support Project. Tell us how that works.
So we are an organisation, a CIC company, dedicated to promoting gambling education, awareness and prevention. So a lot of our work is with young people. So we do it nationally, going into schools and colleges, educating young people on gambling-related harms and gaming-related harms. And then we also educate adults with our CPD training awareness course. So we do various different projects. We've just started a non-league project because gambling within non-league football is another issue. So it's just about raising awareness, and we believe early intervention is key, particularly for young people. I think that's one of our key areas, so that's why I'm particularly passionate about educating young people.
I'll tell you my story very, very quickly. So I was a young kid. I was about 10 years old, I think, and Luton were playing away my football team at Sheffield United, and I had a bet with somebody in the family for £1. Now, at 10 years old, £1 is a lot of money. And Luton were winning 1-0. Until the 90th minute, and they lost 2-1. And the thought of me handing that over, it made me cry. And I said, I'm never, ever going to bet again. Now, that was a moment in my childhood which always sticks with me, because at that time, that £1 to a 10-year-old was everything I had. So when you look at it in context, and I've never, ever gambled or anything like that, because I know the risks. And hearing people like you, Tony, tell your story, I mean, it must mean so much to you that you're helping so many people, hearing those success stories.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I've mentioned it many times on various different platforms. We obviously can't exclude, the thousands, the tens of thousands, the millions of people that do have a bet without encountering gambling harm. I think we have to mention that. But then obviously we have to look at the bigger picture in terms of approximately 2 million are either at risk or addicted to gambling.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to educate from young, so that, if you're educated as a 16, 17-year-old from school or college and you're going into uni, at least then as an 18-year-old at the legal age of gambling, then you have your own choices to make. But you've been made aware, of the pitfalls and the dangers, and you'll have your own choices to make.
And these proposals that we have been speaking about there to Alexia, obviously it's a step in the right direction, isn't it? Because anything that can be done to protect people, that can only be a good thing, goes without saying. Yeah,
and I think, what we have to remember the type of industry we are dealing with. It is a £1 billion industry. It's a profit-making industry. That's just fact. So, I'm probably of the same mindset of Alexa that, it hasn't gone far enough. I was part of the consultations in terms of lived experience advisory board for the Gambling Commission, and we had lots of consultations and meetings with the Gambling Commission and DCMS. And I'm not that surprised, to be honest with you, that there's no real robust changes, in my opinion. One of the things that was discussed, and it sort of reinforced my mind this week when we were at Langley College doing an education workshop for students, is the amount of gaming that is going on with young people. And obviously, from an organisation perspective, the correlation between gaming and gambling is huge, and it's a form of gambling in our opinion when we're talking about loot boxes and FIFA packs, etc. And that was consulted on, but obviously they didn't want to go as far as to banning loot boxes, etc. But young people are spending hundreds and thousands of pounds on loot boxes and FIFA packs, etc. So that is a concern for us when it comes to the 11 to 18-year-olds age bracket. Advertising, definitely agree with that. I think there definitely needs to be a reduction of advertising. We are saturated with it. I think it's something like 1.5 billion is spent on marketing in terms of the operators. So, yeah, I think there's things that more things could have been implemented. I totally agree with Alexa in terms of, we have to wait and see, what these new regulations will look like, when they'll be implemented, and how robust they will be. Will accounts be suspended? Will accounts be closed? We don't know. So there's still a lot to consider as we go forward in the next few months and maybe years.
Tony, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Very inspiring to listen to. You've completely turned your life around. You're now helping other people. Thank you so much for joining us live this morning, and I wish you the best of luck for the future. All the best, Tony.
Thanks a lot, Justin. All the best. Cheers, mate.
That's Tony Kelly there, ex-footballer. He's now the CEO and founder of the Red Card Gambling Support Project.